Hi, it's Mark Evans, and you're listening to Marketing Spark, which features conversations with entrepreneurs and marketers about business, sales, and of course, marketing. In an ideal world, marketing puts the spotlight on your brand and products to drive interest and purchases. Well, that's Marketing 101. But many companies, even ones with great products, struggle because the spotlight is elusive. Maybe they don't have enough money to do marketing. Maybe their product doesn't capture the imagination of consumers. Maybe there's too much competition. What happens when you make a great product that no one knows about? How do you become a viable company? What are the different levers that you can pull to generate attention? These are questions that we're going to explore today with Andrew Grubb, CEO with ThinkSound. ThinkSound is a company based in Toronto that makes personal audio equipment, including headphones. Welcome to Marketing Spark.
Hello, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Why don't we start with some background on ThinkSound and your journey to the company, which was somewhat a little unorthodox given your background?
So I actually started as a customer of ThinkSound maybe 6 or 7 years ago. And I remember, I still remember kind of how I stumbled across it. And it was really through, the kind of audiophile forums and looking for even just like a set of earbuds or headphones. It didn't really matter. But I kind of had this kind of like inkling to try something new, to kind of like elevate my game. I didn't really know what that meant. And so I bought a pair of ThinkSound earbuds at the time. And I refer to it kind of jokingly, but it's also all too serious, that it's the most expensive $150 I've ever spent. Because it really opened my ears, but opened my mind to kind of what music should sound like. And it was a really hard journey after that, because I had to, my car stereo, my home stereo, everything had to change. So it really made like a profound difference in my life, because I've always been a huge fan of music, but I just never had experienced it in that way. And so, that was kind of my personal, obviously like a massive personal impact. But then I found, I guess maybe, I don't know, yeah, I guess it was around a few years after that, when you're traveling a lot and a lot of virtual meetings, that was kind of picking up then. And I found that there was like the kind of the standard kind of, I guess, speakers in my laptop would kind of bug me. And I would go towards kind of more higher end audio products because it represents the voice a little better and I wouldn't get fatigued. And I realized it made, kind of made a big difference for me. So I would buy ThinkSound earbuds for like everyone on my team and people in my company. And I just felt like people deserved to give it a shot. And then maybe, about 2 years ago or so, I reached out to the founder, because I'd been the customer forever and I bought tons of stuff from them. And I was just kind of wondering what was going on. He said, he's like getting a little tired running the business as solopreneur and, wasn't really sure what the future was. And I convinced him to kind of, I guess, let me and another person partner in with the company, and sort of bought a big chunk of it off of him and moved it to Canada. And it's now a kind of like, we call it like a repatriated company. It's now a Canadian firm. So very much out of like personal interest and passion.
It's kind of that old story. I think it's Victor Kayam who bought Gillette, and he ran these commercials for years around the idea that I love the product so much that I bought the company. And that seems to be the path that you took. Provide some background about you. Like, you're not a music executive by any means. You're not even I don't even know if you play music for that matter. What was your professional journey like before ThinkSound?
Yeah. So no, you're right. I mean, when I pick up an instrument, I don't think many people would call it music. So I don't have a lot of like talent in music production, let's say. No, my background is, funny enough, it's, it started off as engineering, but quickly switched into management and entrepreneurship. And I was, I've been in corporate innovation for a number of years. I also still run a, boutique consulting firm around employee experience design. So very B2B, working with, Fortune 500 companies in a management consulting context.
Why don't we talk a little bit about ThinkSound? What does the company do? What kind of products does it make? Where does it fall in the scheme of things? Because obviously you can buy some cheapy headphones off Amazon for $10. And at the high end, you can buy Beats and Bose and all kinds of really amazing products. What does ThinkSound do, and where does it fall in the spectrum?
Primarily, like the number one kind of condition we have to satisfy is, does it sound good? Our kind of internal goal is to make sustainably made portable audio products that beat our competitors at 3 to 5 times the price. That's sort of like our internal mission, if you will. The way we go about it is a lot of companies have manufacturing set up overseas, whether it's Taiwan or Korea or China. We're no different. The difference here is our original founder, Aaron Fournier. He spent 5 years in overseas, primarily in China, working for high-end audio houses, the Infinities and Klipsches of the world, setting up manufacturing and product development and design. And he actually, that's when ThinkSound was born, was out of just a sheer disgust of how few companies actually used engineered products and they just took off the shelf. How expensive everything was, how inaccessible kind of audiophile level like headphones were, and also that everything ended up in a landfill. And so those were kind of I call it, it was like, this thing sounds kind of based off of three disgusts, not necessarily a passion, but like a violent reaction to kind of how the world was working. And so where we sit is there's a pretty linear relationship, like in the market, between cost and quality, like sound quality. We're going to air quote that, because as soon as an audiophile hears this, they're like, there's so much subjectivity in sound. Of course there is. There's tons. And so what we do is we try. Our goal is to kind of disrupt that curve a little bit. And there are other companies doing it, of course, but we try and sit kind of in the, I don't know if you know Bowers and Wilkins. We're kind of in the B&W range of audio quality, and a little bit less expensive. So our headphones, like I'm wearing our OV21s right now, they retail for $500, and we regularly compete against $1,500 to $2,000 Klipsch headphones, as an example. Our kind of internal mission is for more people to hear music the way it was meant to be heard, and there's two parts to that. There's music the way it was meant to be heard, so it has to sound great, and more people, so it has to be more accessible, and that generally means lower price.
Where's the company at in terms of its growth? You repatriated the company back to Canada. You're making product. It sounds like the portfolio is expanding. Where are you from a sales perspective?
It's interesting. On one hand, it's like not encouraging at all, but it's very much by design. When we joined the firm, we reset the entire company, rebranded absolutely everything, like redid all of our product line. And we started in our R&D. So we basically took everything off the shelf for about a year. And then we started with kind of what we could get quickest to the market, which was a wired earbud. And then eventually we came out with these over ears. We have a couple other products in development. It's been very challenging. So I would say right now, quick answer, 2 products in market, both wired, one in-ear, one over-ear. We have multiple wireless as well as in-home. We have a pair of bookshelf speakers that we're kind of designing. COVID has been incredibly challenging, not only with the global chip shortage supply. So all of our Bluetooth products just like ground to a halt a year ago. We can't do any more research and development on them. Dealing with manufacturers overseas without being able to go and sit there in the factory, that's difficult. And so things take a lot longer. So we probably lost a year of development in the past 2 years, which I know is a common story, but for us, it's kind of frustrating when you put everything on hold, like you completely reset the firm, and then when you start, it's a lot slower than you want it to be. As far as development, luckily when we launch a new product, we always do a pre-sale with our existing customers, and the uptake's really good. Like we have a loyal group of customers, and I'm always overjoyed that honestly that anybody buys a product without hearing it. Like that's always makes me happy.
So what kind of marketing has ThinkSound done over the past year or so? Obviously, when you've got supply constraints and development challenges, you probably want to throttle back on marketing. Are you doing any right now? And if so, what kind of marketing is happening?
So it's interesting. I was kind of thinking about this, like in kind of preparing for our conversation. The company was founded, the growth of the company, let's say, was founded on kind of word of mouth, grassroots marketing. And literally what that means is Aaron, our original founder, he's a bassist for a metal band. He's a huge metalhead, and he would kind of almost roadie with a lot of metal bands, and he'd go to these festivals and concerts, and everyone would kind of get along, and then the musicians would start using the headphones, and then it would kind of cycle through the network, and then fans of those types of music would kind of like catch on. And so we have like a diehard metal and jazz following. So people who listen to certain bands would kind of have an affinity to our products, which is I think that's like it's a wonderful feeling to know that our growth is authentic. It's through authentic relationships. And when we kind of translate that to like the last couple of years, that wasn't possible. There's nothing about that was possible. There's no music festival. There's no concerts. None of that has happened. So we've experimented with kind of sponsoring at-home concerts. Very limited success with that. We've also sponsored music festivals. You know, it's interesting because there's kind of two sides to it. One is, hey, what kind of reaction do we get from artists? Like from hip hop and R&B artists, what kind of this is this one festival in Toronto? What kind of reaction do we get from them? And then B is, how many sales did we make as a result? And it's hard because as fans of music and obviously fans of our product, we get caught up in just caring about artist feedback. And when people listen to it and they say, this is amazing, I would rather hear a compliment than make a sale. It's almost like we're being a little self-sacrificial by saying, let's put ourselves into a place where we develop interest and validation in what we're doing. But those aren't the same people who buy our products necessarily. So there have been a lot of like commercially maybe unsuccessful ventures in marketing and sales, but they feel really good, which is really funny. And considering this is very much a passion for all of us, it's not necessarily our core source of income. We don't really question that maybe enough, but it aligns with our philosophy. But as far as what has worked kind of commercially, we have, again, kind of thinking about networks and musicians. There's a lot of musicians kind of that we're, friends with, and they've promoted our products on their channels, and we're allowed to kind of promote their new album releases and tour dates on ours, and we have kind of a bit of a collaboration that generates a lot of interest, which is good. Funny enough, because we have such a loyal following, anytime we release a new product, that's where most of our sales come from, is people who already know us.
A couple places where I want to go. One, there was an article written about ThinkSound, and I think the title was, how do you sell a product that no one knows about? How do you sell a great product that no one knows about? So from a marketing perspective, what are your thoughts about the fact that this product is so good? You have raving fans who obviously upgrade every time that you launch new products. The bang for the buck, obviously, it sounds like it's amazing, which makes me believe that there's lots of people who like the combination of good prices and great quality. Where does that play in terms of the whole marketing and sales scheme? How do you get that message out to the marketplace?
Well, I think embedded in that is a bit of education. If we're trying to disrupt that curve that I referred to a while ago, there's the idea that we need to kind of educate some of the market. And I know this is something we've spoken about is, do you spend all of your time and effort educating and then hoping that that gets attributed to you? That you don't just convince people to go look for better things and they go buy somewhere else. We obviously want both. We want people to make an intelligent purchase. We also want them to make that purchase with us. Partly because we're a business, and partly because we believe in what we make. So there's kind of like a synergy there, if you will. If I had a good answer, I think that'd be too simple. It's a really tricky question, because there are, I guess my kind of like more skeptical side would say that we've kind of fallen into this sort of expectation within B2C goods that advertising is the way that people learn about things, and advertising is the way that companies reach people, and those with bigger advertising budgets will get those people, and that can be true. And so the question we have to ask ourselves is, does that align with how we want to grow our company?
In the B2B SaaS world, where I spend a lot of time these days, most of my time these days, a concept that is rearing its head is community. And community is sexy right now because it's a way of doing marketing and sales, but having other people do it for you. So rather than having to spend the money on advertising and content and going to conferences, you nurture these communities where you have raving fans, and they become evangelists and advocates, and they amplify the brand and spread the word. And it strikes me that the marketing asset that ThinkSound does have is a community. What are your thoughts and plans to leverage that? People love your product. People love to talk about your product. How do you activate them so that they become, in some respects, a marketing and sales army?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I would say we've actually done a decent job in activating it. Our problem is our community is small. And I think our core challenge right now is to grow the community, which I can't really speak to the success of that because we are literally just starting that. In the past couple of months, we started trying to grow a community, and a lot of that is through influencer marketing. It isn't necessarily like I'm not a huge fan of paying people a ton of money because they have a ton of followers. I'm more of the nano and micro influencers because they tend to have more relevant and aligned followers, and people pay attention to what they say. In general, I would say my response, it's a bit of a fictitious and imaginary response because it's what we plan to do. Talk to you in 3 months and tell you how it goes. But we need to go create a network of, I say influencers, but I don't want to use it in the same term that we're like as our kind of common parlance, like people who can influence others, and we want to incentivize them to influence others. A lot of these people aren't necessarily music lovers. So we know that, it used to be that headphones were used for music, and then headphones started being used for like work and travel, and gaming is massive. And we have to we know we have to branch outside of music in order to kind of really broaden our community.
When I think of influencer marketing, it sounds kind of slimy. It sounds a little dirty. It sounds like there's a lot of pay for play, and perhaps a lot of influencer marketing is not authentic. These
Mm-hmm.
the influencers don't necessarily like the products or love the products that they're promoting. What's your approach to influencer marketing? How do you identify them? How do you attract them? And how do you compensate them? Because you want people who are obviously music lovers or video game lovers, or they're always on Zoom and they want a better approach to using audio. How do you
Mm-hmm.
discover them, and how do you get them on site, and how do you keep them?
3 months from now, I'll let you know. I have guesses. Like, this is where we're starting to experiment with that, but I absolutely agree. So considering, I know I've said it a couple times, but we kind of demand authentic growth out of ourselves. And so we don't want to convince people that don't want to be convinced. We don't want slimy influencer marketing. We don't want to grow through channels that don't believe that we actually have a good product. The idea of pay for play without alignment of like why the product exists, I'm not into that. I can't say exactly how we're going to do it because I don't actually know yet. To try a few different ways. But absolutely, one of our goals is to grow, like, let's say through influencers in specifically, have people who believe in it and who agree that our product is good. Those are the ones we want to work with. The hard part for us is that means we have to send out a bunch of free headphones a lot of time. And that can be expensive. That's kind of our commodity. That's our currency, I guess. Not a commodity, it's our currency at the moment, which is, in all honesty, no different than the reviewer space. If you think about how I first found out about ThinkSound was through Stereophile, which is an audiophile publication. And how did ThinkSound get reviewed on Stereophile 7-8 years ago is kind of the same question we're answering now. And when you go to reviewers, we have luckily Aaron has been a part of this community for many, many years. There's a lot of reviewers that really like him and really trust his product, and they'll put us ahead of line from whatever's coming out of Sony or Klipsch's lab. They'll say, yeah, no, we know we know that we're gonna have an emotional reaction to this, and we're gonna have thoughts about it. So we'll write a review on it, and that's great. There are still a ton of reviewers that say, yeah, no problems, give me 10 grand and I'll review your product. No
Right,
thanks.
right.
I have zero interest. We've been approached by so many publications for like Christmas wish lists, like to get onto Oprah's, kind of like holiday gift giving guide. You got to cut a $50,000 check. Like, to me, that's not authentic. That isn't the kind of the channel believing in the product. That's the channel believing in the paycheck, and that doesn't interest me.
Well, that's the reality for a lot of companies, particularly startups who have limited marketing budgets. They are the Davids trying to battle the Goliaths. What are your thoughts from a management perspective, from a strategic perspective, in terms of the levers that David can pull to battle Goliath when you don't have the financial resources to go head to head?
It's so funny. I used to have a similar conversation. So I used to work for Mercer, a big HR consulting firm, and we would talk about market research all the time. And it was always, you had to pay a bunch of money to get market research, and you had to pay to get all these opinions. And there's a coffee shop at the bottom floor of the building. And in that coffee shop is 25 people every 15 minutes walking in that are our ideal customer. What does it cost us to go down there and ask them questions? It's free. Some would call that guerrilla marketing, because you're going out and getting in people's faces. Guerrilla marketing is absolutely free, and it is a great way to go. You don't necessarily have to pay through the traditional channels. You have to, you have to start. I mean, I guess the question you have to answer is like, so what works? And you can either figure out what works through paying for a bunch of different things, or you can go talk to a bunch of people. And sometimes it costs money to talk to people. So if you have no budget, then you have to assume you have no budget and you have to figure out a way to do it. It's hard to say in this kind of virtual world we've been working in for the past while, but as humans start interacting with each other more and more, we can start actually walking down the street and having collisions. That being said, Reddit is a fantastic place, and there is no advertising allowed on Reddit, but you have to be ready for the feedback on Reddit.
So, what is the marketing plan for ThinkSound in 2022? Obviously, community will come back, and you've got some plans for community, which will be fueled by the fact that we'll see concerts come back. I guess in the States, it's already happening. In Canada, we're waiting for that to happen. Festivals, that kind of thing. If you're not going to be leveraging advertising, which it sounds like that's not going to happen, what are your marketing plans? What are the channels that you're going to exploit? How do you raise the company's profile? How do you educate consumers to ultimately drive revenue? Because I mean, you can run this thing as a hobby for a few years, and if as long as it breaks even, I guess that's okay. But I suspect your aspirations are mixed. On one hand, you're an audiophile who loves the product and just wants to have some fun along the way. And on the other hand, you're a business guy. You can't, allocate time when there's no ROI. So I guess that's a long-winded question about, what are we going to see from ThinkSound as far as marketing is concerned in 2022?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So there's two easy answers, but I'm going to start with your last comment about the hobby. I agree that there's like kind of like an internal personal conflict, right? But at the end of the day, if our mission is for more people to hear music the way it was meant to be heard, and if I believe in the product that we've designed, then people deserve for me to try and grow the company, and for not just me, but the team. Like, this is what, if I believe this is what the world needs, then the world needs it. And I, it has nothing to do with me finding time or investing it and running it as a hobby. Like, I have to believe that there's a reason why we created this product. It's not just for me. As much as like I joke that I'm really getting the company to design products for myself because this is what I want. And like, it's the most expensive pair of headphones I could have bought, which is kind of stupid. Right. I had to buy, design a whole friggin' product. Yeah, no. So there's like a little piece of me that's like a little bit like kind of rebellious to your perspective, but I agree with your perspective completely. So the two ways that we absolutely plan on growing. So, going back to kind of the influencer marketing side, I don't want to call it that. So building that community, but key is going deep on a narrow community instead of just spreading ourselves really thin and saying, hey, let's go talk to gaming people. Yeah, no. Like that's way too wide. So we need to go very focused on where we're going to be leveraging, let's call it like personal individual brands to kind of like amplify our brand. So that would be my kind of maybe PC way of describing an influencer. So that's number one, for sure. We're doing that. We've lined, actually, I'm going to go give you a bonus third, which I don't know if it'll generate money, but it's really interesting. The second is through music festivals. And again, this isn't necessarily for the attendees of the festival, but we've already kind of lined up with a couple different festivals to be kind of backstage with artists, talking to them. It's been a great avenue for more hardcore hardware producers. Like there was, I know the CEO of the Sound of Music Festival here in Burlington. He was telling me the story about a guitar designer and a guitar maker that got backstage with a bunch of bands. Like he just was like, the guy loved his guitar. So like, yeah, come on backstage, hang out all day. And he sold, I don't know, $50,000 worth of guitars that day, just because he was there with a product that people loved. And they said, yeah, you know what? I love this product and I support you and I appreciate that you're here. So that's partly that's this kind of the second main kind of lever for us, if you will. The third one, which I'm not sure if it's going to make money, like I really don't know and I really don't care, is I'm starting to talk to a couple different artists and like musicians about kind of like limited run versions of headphones. And the idea being, and this is where it sounds good on paper, but I really don't know how it'll go, is a lot of bands have kind of fan clubs. And so these fan clubs, you pay a nominal fee, 40 or 50 bucks a year sometimes. And you get early access to tickets, you get, certain like limited edition merch and things like that. And really the idea is like, hey, can we give bands another way to get in the home of their fans? And so right now the way bands get into have a physical interaction with people's lives is you buy their record, you buy their t-shirt, you go to their concert. The concert is the only musical piece of that. Like the record is there for sure, obviously, but none of that, actually I shouldn't say none of it, kind of connects with an experience, but a headphone is another way to kind of to kind of bring the band into someone's life. That's something we're exploring. I like the idea of helping the bands establish a better connection. I don't know how beneficial it'll be, but it's something that I want to do.
Two final questions, one hard and one easy. Let's start with the hard question. If someone were considering the purchase of earphones or over-the-ear headphones right now, why should they buy ThinkSound versus a Sony or Klipsch or Sennheiser or Beats? What makes ThinkSound better?
Dollar for dollar, we're going to be better sound quality. Absolutely. That's the easy one to me. The other one is maybe this connects with like a secondary reason people make purchases, especially for our over ears. Everything is made with an incredible focus on sustainability. So our over ear, all of our packaging from ground up, zero single use plastics. Everything is paper or recyclable or made from recycled materials. I can't confirm, but we tried getting biodegradable ink. Even like it's something we really strive for. The plastic on here, as you make bigger products, you need to use more plastic. We actually partnered with a company out of the States called Eastman Chemical. And so our plastic is made out of a bioplastic called Triva. So even our plastic is made out of wood, which is kind of funny. So if that's something that you believe in, good luck finding a sustainably made headphone from any of the big companies. To me, that's the easy part is if sustainability is your focus and you're an audiophile, there are very few options.
The easy question. Thanks for that question. The easy question. Thanks for that answer. The easy question is, where can people learn more about you and, as important, ThinkSound?
ThinkSound.com. You could follow us on Instagram. We're not super active on Instagram. We really want to stay away from being spammy. So we kind of maybe over-index on kind of only like posting every now and again. But those are the best ways to kind of find out about us and engage with us. We're super responsive. Because this is all of our passion, our turnaround time on communication is pretty instant. If it goes a day without a response, it's kind of sickening to us.
A comment and a final question. The comment will be for anyone who is an Instagram fan and a music fan listening to this podcast. I'm sure they're going to circle back with you and tell you that you can enjoy the best of both worlds. You can be on Instagram, you can have an active presence, you can build a community, and you can avoid being spammy. So prepare yourself for the barrage of social media strategists who will come to you with services. Maybe you can do a little barter swap. Headphones for free advice, something like that. The other question, Andrew has welcomed you if you're a social media strategist and you want a free pair of headphones in exchange. I'm sure he'll be all ears. The other question would be, where can you buy ThinkSound products?
So currently we're direct to consumer. ThinkSound.com is our primary source. We basically do, we have three main sources: direct to consumer, Amazon, and then high-end audio retailers all around the world.
Well, thanks for listening to another episode of Marketing Spark. If you enjoyed the conversation, leave a review, subscribe via Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app, and share via social media. To learn more about how I help B2B SaaS companies as a fractional CMO, strategic advisor, and coach, send an email to mark@markevans.ca or connect with me on LinkedIn.